now it's becoming exciting because we want to talk about politics that are absolutely relevant for the pet industry. So it would be really nice if you join us and listen to us, because up there you won't understand a word. Okay, then we start. We're starting. And yes, you're at the booth of the German Pet Trade and Industry Association, ZZF, and of WZF Pet Industry Service, which is the organizer of the Interzoo. And ZZF is responsible for the lobbying for the German pet industry. And that means that the members are from manufacturers, pet retailers, groomers, breeders, and wholesalers. And in a similar way, the European Pet Organization is working. But of course, this is the voice of the European pet industry. And today we've got them, the representatives of EPO with us. I'm very excited and I'm very pleased. And I want to say one word about EPO. It was founded in April 1990 in Vienna, and ZZF is one of the founders. That's why we are linked very closely together, and we are very, very excited that you are our guests today. So I like to introduce Svein Fossa. He's the president of the European Pet Organization. And Nathalie Gamain, she's the Secretary General of the European Pet Organization. Nathalie is working in Brussels. She is a lobbyist for various sectors, not just for the pet industry. And Svein is a biologist and has been active as a consultant and lobbyist in the pet industry since 1992. And he has held several leadership positions in the international pet sector, including the European Pet Organization, of course, and the Ornamental Fish International, the Norwegian Pet Trade Association, the Scandinavian Pet Trade Union, the pet trade magazine Pet Scandinavia, and the Norwegian Zoo Expo trade shows as a co-organizer. This is a lot you are doing, or you have done. Svein and Nathalie, I welcome you very much, and I'm looking forward to our talk. Because it's very important to have a lobbying organization in Brussels, because more and more decisions are made on the European level and not on national level. And Svein, maybe you can tell briefly what exactly does EPO do? What is your mission?
Well, first of all, we are a umbrella organization for national pet trade associations all over Europe. And basically, our core mission is to do what is very difficult for national associations to do on their own. Because having influence in Brussels is not something you can do as a tourist going to Brussels once a year or so. You have to be present, you have to follow what is happening, and it's extremely important that people know you. And that's why we depend on the expertise and experience of Nathalie in going into the inner circles of decision makers in Brussels and having them recognize her as a united voice of the pet industry and trade in Europe.
You say industry and trade. What I realize is that there are many trade representatives in EPO, but do you only work for the pet traders, or also for the pet retail in general and manufacturers?
We work for everyone who depends on a continued pet keeping in Europe. Because what many people who are not actively engaged in politics and maybe not even care about politics, what many of them don't understand is that if things continue as it has been continuing for the last several years, there will be severe restrictions on pet keeping compared to how it is today. I wouldn't say that it's all doom and gloom and that we will end up with no pets, but the pet market, the pet hobby could look very different in the future from what it does today, unless we have active influencing of the decisions makers in particularly Brussels, but all over Europe, also on national levels and internationally in organizations that work also far beyond the EU.
That's something we want to talk about the challenges we have as the pet industry, and there are many of them. But I think there's one current topic that we cannot ignore today, because it's just a few days ago that the European Parliament adopted new EU rules on the welfare and traceability of dogs and cats. Nathalie, this regulation is very comprehensive. What specific progress is made there for animal welfare?
It is a milestone. First, we enter into a new era. The EU has adopted, as you said, the Parliament, and in the coming weeks at Council level, the first EU rules to tackle the welfare and traceability of dogs and cats. It's a major milestone, a historical moment, because animal welfare until now has been a member state competency, national competency. And for the first time ever, the EU is moving forward on animal welfare. And the first regulation it adopts is on dogs and cats. So for a sector, I would say we are now, if we didn't know, under the spotlight. But those rules are very important because they aim to harmonize rules within the internal market, but not only, also applies to third countries exporting to the EU dogs and cats. It also introduced mandatory shipping of all dogs and cats placed on the market. So it has a component beyond animal welfare of traceability and tackling illegal trade. For us, it is an important file, if I may say. We've been working hard for the past 2 years on the negotiation phase within the Commission, the Parliament, and the Council to ensure, first, that there was not a precedent with a ban at pet store level, meaning that there is no ban of selling dogs and cats at store level, but an improvement of the welfare condition. That is important for the pet sector because we don't have a precedent for other ban on other pet species being sold at store level. Second, we also managed to avoid the scope extension of that new rules. There are certain political groups and some stakeholders wanted to extend the scope to other pets with the introduction of what we call an EU-wide positive list. Thanks to our efforts, in particular throughout the negotiation phase, because the Parliament really called for that extension of scope when they voted the amendments a year ago, but in the provisional agreement reached in December and adopted now at Parliament level, it's been taken out. We managed to keep the rules to dogs and cats. And for us, it's a major advocacy win because dogs and cats deserve to be tackled properly. Plus, as a sector, we're pretty much against a positive list at EU level.
It's a success for the industry and a success for EPO. What did you do exactly to achieve that?
It takes time. It's raising awareness, education. It means that with the Commission, we were in a good place because we have a long-standing collaboration with the EU administration. But at Parliament, as you know, we have a new Parliament since 2 years. So it means that we had to promote the pet sectors as a vital pillar of the European economy, but not only, by promoting the importance of pet keeping within our society. And that's an exercise to ensure that we reach toward MEPs, so elected members of the Parliament, to address the importance of pet keeping and trading in our society. That is essential.
You mentioned the positive list. maybe for clarification, this is an authorization list for keeping pets. So all pets are forbidden, but there is a list that allows some pets, and that's what we don't want, of course not. Do you think that now this risk is banned forever?
That will be the dream world, right? I have to be sarcastic. Because we live in a society where I would say some parties have an agenda to push for an EU-wide positive list. So we do see that for all EU agenda items, but it's the same thing at national level, when we talk about live animals or biodiversity loss, environmental preservation, certain groups push for a positive list as the solution, simple solution to complex matters. So there are different routes being taken to push for that agenda. So for us as a sector, it means that we have to be alerted, that we have to be proactive, and promote opposition against such approach, because it's not a solution to address animal welfare, as certain parties say. It's not a solution to address zoonosis disease, so disease being transmissible in between animals and human. It's not a solution to stop biodiversity loss.
Why that? Why it is not a solution?
At the end of the day, I would say, but we have a good expert here, so I will pass the floor to Svein.
Yes, of course.
That. Yeah.
Well, first of all, positive lists, even though it sounds very positive, is we have to make very clear that it bans everything unless it can be proven without any doubt that there is no risk whatsoever in any sector involved in allowing that species. So to get on a positive list, the species would have to have proven good welfare in captivity, easy to keep for everyone who would like to keep it, no health risk whatsoever, no invasiveness risk, etc., etc. And this is not, there isn't really any good explanation to why you should do this. Because for the majority of pets, there are no known problems. We are talking about a hypothetical problem. It's referred very often by the promoters of positive lists that we need positive lists to avoid welfare problems. But they know also that welfare problems in pet keeping today is basically in the most popular species that no doubt would end up on a positive list anyway. No one is thinking of banning cats and dogs.
Or rabbits.
Or rabbits. But those three species are overrepresented on welfare issues, which is a signal that this has nothing to do with the species. It has to do with too many incompetent people wanting to have an animal. And then it may be a solution, instead of letting someone who can't keep a dog getting a dog, maybe they should have a snake or a frog or an aquarium fish. Because they could perhaps keep that much better than the dog. So positive list doesn't really solve anything. It's a hypothetical thing, and I see no other sense in positive list than that someone wants to ban pet keeping.
So how can we promote responsible pet ownership?
Oh, there will be a lot of different strategies, but certainly the responsible pet trade has an important job in this, in making sure that they give good advice in the shops, like most already are doing. We will certainly not promote responsible pet keeping if what today is legal through transparent channels end up in the black market and is sold on the internet with no advice given whatsoever. So having a responsible source for the animals is the first and most important part.
The European Commission has commissioned a study on this positive list issue. Are there any results already?
I'm sure there are results, but it hasn't been published yet.
Okay.
We are waiting with anxiousness as the initial results that came out and which we have seen were, well, they were rather subjective in some areas, and we have, as EPO, along with other national trade associations, fed in our concern and hope that the people who write this report actually now take into account what they should have included to begin with. But we will not know that until on June 11th, I think.
A little bit before. I think we have a webinar for our members on the outcome of the study presented by the European Commission on June 11th, but the objective of the Commission is to release the results before that, so in the coming days or weeks. But it is important to say that when the preliminary results came, EPO and other national pet trade associations, it's not only we share our concern, we built a comprehensive response toward the European Commission, who is funding, so public money, that study, because there was lack of scientific evidence, lack of methodology, and inaccurate, outdated information. So there were a lot of, I would say, red signals. And due to that, the Commission, and thanks to our long-standing collaboration with the European Commission, the Commission took it very seriously and said, okay, we're going to ask the contractor to rewrite the study. So the study results were supposed to be released in October, November of last year. No, it didn't happen. In September, they were asked to rewrite their study. So now we are waiting for the new version of that study. So it will be published, yes, in a couple of days or weeks, but we already secured a meeting actually for our members, including ZZF, to dialogue with the Commission on this publication, because it is an important topic for our sector and even beyond for our society.
And it's again a success for all the lobbyists who...
Of course,
yes,
of course. We wouldn't have managed to get that study rewritten without our long-standing collaboration with the EU administration, with the Commission. It is important to have that dialogue. As you say, it's not a once-a-year visit in Brussels that makes it happen. It's a long-standing effort throughout the year with the decision-making field in Brussels.
On Monday, at the opening ceremony, we had a video welcome speech from Oliver Vahey, and he is the Commissioner for Health and Animal Welfare at the European Commission, which is the first one who's ever had this role. Is it already having a noticeable impact on all these issues related to the pet industry?
I would say yes. When he was appointed as a commissioner for health and animal welfare, so it's the first time that the commissioner has a title dedicated to animal welfare. So for us, for the pet sector, it is of high importance. But he was a candidate of Hungary, of Orban's former government. So all stakeholders, including us, were like in a wait-and-see situation, because we knew that Hungary was getting the portfolio which was the least demanded on the EU composition of the college. But I have to say that after 2 years, Commissioner Varela and his cabinet and the Commission already delivered with the first EU rules on animal welfare, tackling dogs and cats. So for us, he already did the job, I would say. But we're only 2 years, I would say, into his term. So we have 3 years to go. So let's wait and see, because the most important is tomorrow. It will be developing the ABCs, as we said, the Delegated and Implemented Act for that new regulation. And as you said, there are other topics on the table, positive list, but not only.
Only Yes.
And if I may add to that, I think the best thing of having a commissioner on animal welfare is that everyone has an opinion on animal welfare, but not all of them have expertise on animal welfare. And if we are going to do a good job for the pet sector, we need to talk to people who have expertise and who are focused on really doing this on an objective and scientifically based way, and not only having opinions.
Okay. So he's not just having an emotional approach.
Absolutely
Yes.
not.
Okay.
As a sector, it is important that we bring scientific-based evidences, proportionate, and very well balanced approach for the sector with concrete and workable regulation. That's very important.
Are there any more issues that are important at the moment for your work?
I would say that we have the upcoming, in the animal welfare package that was presented in 23 with the dogs and cats file, there was the live transport regulation revision. And that's been the statu quo. And we heard that last week the Parliament is reinitiated its work on that file. So it is a revision of the live animal transport regulation of 2005 with improvement, not stricter rules, but improvement with a better handling of aquatic and terrestrial species that are being transported in Europe. So at the Parliament there were more than 3,000 amendments, so the fight was on stop because the Parliament did not know how to handle it. As the two lead rapporteurs, so the leads on the files did not know how to find a consensus, so they had to wait for the Parliament to develop a guideline to how to tackle this type of issue. But it started last week, which means that we're going to continue to work on that file. And for us, it's very important because it is important that terrestrial and aquatic species are being transported properly, and that there are not that measures of in the proposal we do have workable solutions, not more burdens for the sector.
Yes. Would you like to add something? No.
No, I
You're
think it's well summarized.
Yes, there are so many pressing issues there, and EPO is depending on the budget of the industry, of course. So what could the pet industry do to support EPO?
Oh, well, the very basic thing they should start with immediately is to care more about the animals they depend on for their industry. I may add that I participated in the sustainability conference, and I wouldn't say shocked, I got my suspicions confirmed that there were very little talk about animals. I think the pet industry is very good on sustainability issue. It's comparable or even better than many other sectors, but we should never forget that we depend on animal keeping. If people don't keep animals, you will not sell any of the products that make money. And in order to make sure that there is a good basis for pet keeping in the future, you need to support those who are fighting for continued pet keeping with rational, adequate regulations. We are not against regulations. We want regulations that work and actually bring what they are supposed to bring. And one way of the pet industry to act in direct support of that is, of course, to become sponsors or associate members of EPO, or at the very least of some of the national trade associations that we collaborate with. We need all the forces to make sure that the voice of the pet industry is heard. EPO is not an economically big organization, but I would dare say that we are achieving a lot with the limited resources we have. We could achieve a lot more if we had more economical resources.
If I may say, I would say that members of the sector should either join EPO as associate members or sponsor EPO. They have to, of course, comply with our charter or be affiliated with our national members, but we need to speak stronger as one voice within the EU decision-making process. It is key to ensure that tomorrow we can continue to keep pets within our society and trade pets.
I had a look on the website, and there's a map of Europe and all the countries that are members or have trade associations which are members, but there are still some spots, some countries even that are not members, not in any way. So why is it so difficult to attract new trade associations from other countries?
I would start looking at the audience here as I fear that there are too few who really are aware of the issues we are up against. And awareness is something which is difficult to create if people don't want to listen to you. But we are doing what we can, and we hope that everyone who share our opinion on this also do what they can. Because the pet industry is gigantic, and no one person can cover everything. But if 50 people go around and talk to everyone of the importance of having representation of the pet sector in Brussels, maybe we can achieve something.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to add something?
Yes, but there are also some countries on the map where there are no national association. So that's the challenge, and that's where we rely on entities who are really active within their countries to reach toward us, because there can be like large operators, but with no trade association.
Yeah.
And so it is an opportunity, the associate membership for those entities to join EPO and for EPO to have a representation in those countries where no national associations exist.
And if I may supplement on that, the fact that many countries don't have a national pet trade association reflects exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
People do not understand that pet keeping as an institution is threatened by a lot of legislation which we can influence if we have the resources. We can do a good job in Brussels now, but things could also happen in one of the capitals in eastern part of Europe where there are no trade associations. And from there continue to spread across Europe. And we will not hear about it before it reaches one of our members or becomes the talk of the town in Brussels. So even though I would love to ask everyone to support EPO, at the very least make sure that there is some representation for the pet sector in your own country.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it could be that some think, or there's no threat for dogs and cats.
Oh, well, I would disagree with the current new regulations. I would say that hadn't EPO been involved as much as we have in that process, it would have looked potentially much worse for the pet trade. And we haven't finished that work yet. Now we are going to face attempts to ban breeds of dogs. I can't imagine that the pet industry is willing to let people who have no knowledge of the pet industry deciding on their own what are the breeds that are going to be banned and on what grounds should they be banned.
Thank you so much. I think this song shows that we are coming to an end. Thank you so much for this wonderful talk, for this interesting insights. Would you like to say a last sentence?
No, I wanted to thank you for this opportunity, Antje, and for the ZZF team, WZF, for bringing the EU agenda in Nuremberg at Interzoo. It's very special, and it is very important because, as we emphasize, it is important that the pet sector speaks louder as one voice in Brussels. So I would say collaboration, support, and thank you for this given opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have nothing to add.